There you go, tropical stratocumulus, working northward in advance of a powerful cold front in Texas and Arkansas. We got one of the most intense cold fronts I've seen in some time. We had the temperature drop about 32 degrees here in about an hour, and look at these temperatures up in the North Plains. Got minus 36 for a low this morning in Jordan, Montana, and very widespread minus 20s across that part of the country. So this is a very potent cold blast. Got single digits all the way down to Kansas and Colorado, and those will be creeping southward gradually. But we can kind of look at this to get an idea of the extent of the cold air mass in the western U.S., because that gives us a lot of trouble when we're trying to analyze out there. We can see a lot of minus 10s and minus 5s in eastern Idaho. But then when we go south, we got 45 here at Page, Arizona. 25, that's going to be a little bit on the warm side. 10, that's a little bit on the warm side. 20, that's probably about seasonal at Tonopah. So we're probably looking this morning at that cold front being in this area here. And then obviously out in the Great Plains, something like that. And it's also steamrolled through Denver, quite a blast there. And I'll show you this footage. I appreciate one of the guys on Reddit letting me use this, and there's the credits down there. But this is what it looked like at 2:30 in the morning last night in Denver. You can see a lot of crazy drivers way over there on the left lane just blasting through there. But I'm hoping to work in some more of this footage in the upcoming webcast. So if you have some video you want to contribute in the days or weeks ahead, use my weathergraphics.com contact information and send that along, and I'd be glad to use that on the webcast. And even if it's just quiet weather where you are, you can send some video, and we'll put that on. This is an overhead view of the cold outbreak, and I left off the state outlines to kind of let you look strictly at the clouds. The Rocky Mountains are like right here, and you can see a lot of stratus in this area. And on top of that, a few higher layers of middle cloud. And as we go into the deserts here, the Chihuahua Desert, looks like some blowing dust. So you see that right there, streaking northeastward. There's some ducting of very strong winds aloft down to the surface. And let me show you where that is. Now I'll go ahead and put on the overlays. And you can see that's just south of El Paso. And even up in northern Arizona, I saw this very unusual feature. This is the Grand Canyon right here. And I'm seeing this little feature right here. It looks like maybe some blowing snow, perhaps. Very unusual feature. I haven't had a chance to really check that out, but I'm inclined to believe that's what it is. Either it's that or it's snow on the ground. To really figure that out, we'd have to look at a satellite animation. That could just be a snow streak of snow on the ground. All right, let's look at the surface chart, and we like to start with the thickness. That'll kind of give us a very fast track where the fronts are located. You can definitely make out that thickness banding, very obvious here. I'll just circle that real quick. Kind of looks like that. That's the area of strongest banding of the 1,000 through 500 millibar thickness. So that makes it pretty easy to draw the fronts, and we're going to come up with something like that. And it does get a little bit indeterminate out in the western U.S. There's packing down here, but we saw that there's probably a front further north, maybe up in this area. So we're going to look for this on the surface chart. So probably go with something like that right there. Main low pressure system up near Detroit, and that'll be working towards New York and New England over the next 24 hours. Let's take a quick look before we look at the surface data at the sounding in Norman, Oklahoma, near Oklahoma City. This is the radio saw just 30 minutes ago. And maybe if you've hung around on this webcast, you might have a good idea how to read these things. We've got the top of the main cold air mass right here. And you can see there's a wind shift. Below that, we pick up north winds here. So we're topping out at about 6,000 feet for the top of that cold layer. And above that looks like another one for that old polar air mass. That's up at about 18,000 feet or so. And down below that, very cold air. So up above the surface, it's above freezing. You go down to the surface, and we're about 10 to 15 Fahrenheit. So a lot to look at. Let's check out the surface analysis real quick. This is the state of the front right now through Texas. We can see the front running from east of Little Rock through around Shreveport, all the way down to Austin, and looks like it's starting to come through the Texas Hill Country, around Kerrville, and back towards Sanderson. And you can see south of that, we've got lots of 70s at this hour, and dew points almost up to 70. So that's just barely enough to support a little bit of showers and thunderstorms. And behind that, single digits in the Texas Panhandle, and up near Woodward and Enid, Woodward and Gage, Oklahoma, 6 degrees. 8 in Perryton, 6 in Guyman, 2 in Dodge City. That is some cold air. It's colder than I've seen probably in about 4 or 5 years. And then we'll take a look at the big picture, because I know not all of you are in the Central Plains, so we'll take a look a little bit further east. Pretty similar story, very strong front coming through the Ohio River Valley. And we can see 70s up to Nashville, and 70 there at Huntsville, Alabama. So very warm there. And where is that front? Where's the warm front located? Because we can see it's 32 here around Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 46 in Washington, D.C., so that's kind of cool. Looks like that's going to be down in this area right here. Maybe try that again. You can see that there's a little bit of damming and a little bit of trapped cold air in the valleys and the Appalachians, because it's very cold in this area here, Gatlinburg, Knoxville, to around Roanoke. And then just to the west, we pick up some very warm air. So that's the warm front trying to erode. But that's going to be undercut by the front pretty quickly as that works southeastward over the next 12 to 24 hours. And then out west, we'll take a quick look at over there and see the progress of the cold front. Things look pretty mild in Arizona. Phoenix and Tucson showing 50 to 55. But it looks like that front is probably sneaking through this area right here, starting to pick up those north winds at Las Vegas. That's a very good telltale sign of the front passing through. So we're probably looking at something like this for the front. Okay, let's see. Make sure I'm not missing anything else. I do want to mention we're getting close to the winter solstice. That's going to be on the 20th. That's on Tuesday here, so coming up only in a few days. So when that happens, the sun will be at the lowest elevation in the sky, and the days will be the shortest. And that'll be about 4:44 in the morning when that happens. And we also have a meteor shower coming up on the 21st, the Urshids. It's a minor meteor shower, just 5 to 10 meteors per hour. So, but that's from Comet Tuttle. You've probably heard of that one. Okay, I think we're ready to head into the forecast. So let me check on the chat. Kind of a slow day, which is slow chat, which is kind of usual for Saturday. People are off doing stuff. And then Sunday tends to be our busiest weathercast day. We got Sue here, and Alexi, and Felix, Grant, little Jim. Grant is here. Tornado warning for Arkansas. Yeah, I forgot to mention the storms in Arkansas and Louisiana. I have GR level 2 here. I probably don't have that going far east enough. But you can see the storms, the showers along the leading edge of that front. This far west, they're pretty benign. You can see they're kind of disorganized to just little multi-cell clusters here and there. And then we're going to be looking for the stronger stuff a little bit further west. I'm going to pull up the Memphis radar, and if that comes in time, we'll check that out. All right, so let's see what's going to happen on the surface map over the next week or so. So there's our front moving southward through the Great Plains and into the southeast. And we can see that the GFS breaks out an area of thunderstorms from Mississippi up to Kentucky and Ohio. And that'll be late during the overnight hours. Probably not looking for anything too severe. Any significant severe weather is just going to be isolated in nature because we're not dealing with a whole lot of Cape this time around. So for our webcast tomorrow night, we're going to see that front clear the most of the southeast U.S. and all the way down to Mexico, replaced by this 1043 millibar high over Missouri and another high further west over the plateau regions of Idaho, 1045 millibars there, and north of that, a little bit of a warm front and downslope working through the Montana and Alberta area. So things should quiet down for tomorrow, and then for Monday, more high pressure, a large ridge across the south and central U.S., downslope flow picking up through the Dakotas, so we should see a little bit of a warm-up then. Lee side trough kind of digging in right there. For the webcast on Tuesday, again, continued pretty quiet, but we have to look at these thickness bands and see where those are ending up, because those are going to be significant. All we need is a little bit of upper air energy, and those will focus into frontal development zones. So there's one zone right there. This is all potential area of frontogenesis if we have enough upper support. And then there's this other one here developing in northern Nevada and northern California. And we can see already at this point there's snow showers coming together in this region. So for, let's see here, Wednesday, things still stay pretty quiet. Plateau high over Idaho. Little weak system coming out of the plains, giving us another push of cold air southward. And you can see that's going to be a pretty dry front as it moves eastward. Kind of a reinforcement of cold air, and you can see the 540 line coming all the way down to Dallas and Shreveport. So continued cold through the middle of the week. And then we got to watch this area out here, because that's going to be important as we get towards Christmas. Look at the thickness banding. We got out here in California 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines. So this is a potent area for frontal development. And if we want to actually place the front, maybe something like that, maybe a bit of an occlusion up to the north, but it's still a pretty potent frontal zone, and a little bit of looks like upper support is starting to work in here. Then for Friday, there's that frontal zone shifting southward. Looks like it's tightening up a bit, doesn't it? Low pressure in New Mexico and Arizona, high pressure or low pressure in New Mexico, with a front extending westward kind of like that. So this is starting to come together, and this will be something we're going to watch for Texas over Christmas. Christmas Eve, now we got ourselves some weather. Low pressure to the south, and the main frontal system as well to the south in Mexico, but we've got a ton of ascent, isentropic lift across Texas, probably some upper level support there, and we develop a very large area of precipitation. Now, this is one example where we should really look at the Canadian model, because we saw over the past couple of days they were pretty good at placing the system in the Great Plains, but there was a lot of variation from north to south on this. I think the Canadian model was going further north, so we definitely want to check that out. And maybe I can do that. Let me see if I can have that running in the background. So let's see. GDPS, that's going to be the Canadian global model. And we'll wait for that to load, and hopefully that doesn't kill our bandwidth here. So while that loads, we'll go ahead and go back to the map and go back to Christmas Eve. Looks like a white Christmas for Midland, Lubbock, Wichita Falls, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and southern Missouri, according to the GFS model. And that might spread down towards the Red River also, maybe a little bit back in here too. So we'll keep an eye on that. And back here, looks like we got some cold core snow showers in West Texas. That could be significant also. And this is the 26th here. Looks like snow and frozen precipitation continuing. New low pressure system pushing out into the Ohio River Valley. And then just kind of a cool pattern, mild, another outbreak of cold air on the 29th. 30th looking pretty mild, kind of a slow warm up, and then a new outbreak of cold air. This is more of an Alberta clipper pushing southeastward into the Great Lakes area. And that's the end of the GFS model. So this is the Canadian model here. We'll take a quick look at this, run this up to Christmas Eve. And what do we got? Yeah, just as I guessed, surface system further north. This is the morning of Christmas Eve here. And the pattern it's showing looks kind of like this. It's suggesting the cold front here is going to be kind of dry. Warm front is going to be the main active zone, so probably some ascent over that. And the warm conveyor belt kind of working this way. And then that moves eastward. This is the Christmas Eve at about 8 p.m., 6, 7, 8 p.m. And that works well to the north. So a very different picture there with that Canadian model. It's going to be interesting to see which one is accurate, but the general idea here is the same. A little bit of snow for Oklahoma City, west Oklahoma and Kansas, maybe a little bit further north, not so much for Texas. So we'll see how that pans out. And then that system slips eastward and forecasting snow for the Great Lakes area once again, and things look to be liquid form around New York, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. All right, so that's the rundown through the weather maps. Let me take a quick look at the chat, and please forgive me if I'm overlooking the text. There's a lot to look through here, and I'm probably going to miss some of these posts. Will the cold pattern continue through the winter? Well, we are in a La Nina pattern, and that's going to favor slightly cooler temperatures in the central and eastern U.S. However, I saw that the CPC forecasts were going above average, particularly in the south. So I guess it's what we're painting out here is probably this area runs a pretty good chance of being cold for the rest of the winter, and the central and south is going to be kind of up in the air. And then La Nina, that is going to be probably a little bit mild for the southwest, so this would probably be more in line with what the CPC is forecasting for that area, warm and dry. Let's see. How long does that front take to sweep through the U.S., and where does it go? It sweeps through in only about 24 to 36 hours. I'll run that back for you. This is what we have right now. You can see that front just kind of pushing southward, and then let's see, about 24, 36 hours later, it's all the way out into the Gulf. And what happens is the cold air just goes out over the Gulf Stream waters and over the Gulf of Mexico, and it forms kind of an inversion, kind of cool air at the surface, very cloudy out there, and it gradually starts modifying, picking up warmth from below. And about 3 or 4 days later, that may start coming back up as a warm front. And that's what we saw yesterday in Texas with that warm front sneaking up from the Gulf. That was the tail end of the previous system coming back northward as a warm front. But you can track that on surface charts as the system moves out into the Atlantic and the Gulf over the next couple of days. Follow the surface plots and see what happens to that air mass. Okay, I think that's going to be it for me for this evening. I appreciate you all joining, and hopefully we'll see you. Let me get my fade out music so it doesn't jump in here real quick. All right. We'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Thanks for watching.